Okay, so what we have here is exactly the same thing as the fingering chart, except for this time we're getting to know the letter names of the scale. So why is this going to be important? I kind of compare it to colors. A stop sign's red, so you know what to do with it. You stop. You see, a gray sky, you know it's going to rain. It's kind of the same idea. Eventually, each one of these letters will have a specific sound to you, and you'll know what to do with that sound when you need it. So it looks a lot more difficult than it really is. You'll notice here that the letters just go alphabetically, starting from a G, which is why it's called a G scale. The major, as we talked about earlier, has to do with the whole steps and half steps. But back to this, we have a G note, which starts the scale. Then it just goes alphabetically from there. If you'll remember back to the musical alphabet we talked about earlier, we have a G alphabetically, then to A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then G. So if you look at that carefully, you'll notice there's only 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it just repeats again. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. So there's another 7. We also call that 8 sometimes for an octave. We'll talk about that later. And then we get one extra note up here, A. So the way this works, just very briefly, is let's say that you wanted to apply this to something. For instance, a G chord. What would be a good note to use over a G chord? A G note. And as you can see, there's 3 of them here. If you wanted to use, for instance, a note over a C chord, what would be a good note to use? A C note. And there's 2 of them. Last but not least, for instance, over the D chord, you would want to maybe use a D note. Of course, all of these will work, but you'll have to experiment and play this over the jam tracks to see how it really works later on. Another benefit of seeing it in this fashion is that before we looked at the guitar going straight up the guitar, learning all the notes up one string. What this is showing you is how those same notes lay out but going in this direction across the guitar, or what we call a position, so that you're not playing up the string, you're playing so that your hands don't have to move too much. Once again, memorization is going to be a key thing here, and we will discuss that further later on. So now that we've gotten through all this crazy math talk and whatnot, what we're going to do is physically learn how to learn the scale in the fastest way. So rather than taking the entire scale all at once, it's a lot more simple to take it as half of the scale at once. So what I mean by that is we're going to start, just like the grid says, starting on the 6th string, and we're going to start by learning just the first 3 strings, or the 6th string, the 5th string, and the 4th string. So what you're going to do is you're going to play the scale up to that point, like this. Okay? That's just a lot less to memorize, and you're going to do it over and over until you get it, kind of like this. Again. And do it slowly and evenly, and you're just trying to memorize it. You're not trying to be the fastest guitar player in the world right now or anything like that. Memorization. Concentrate on your fingers. Okay, so now that we've gotten the first half fit together, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing by starting on the second half fit. So that means you're going to actually be starting on the 3rd string here with your first finger. Okay. Now I find that a repetition of doing something like 10 or 15 times over and over, just keep doing it, that really starts, after about 8 times you probably find that it will somewhat be stuck in your head and you'll kind of have an idea. Okay? Now the thing to do is once we have the entire scale, or both halves of the scale down, what you want to do is put the entire thing together. So that's going to sound like this. Halfway done. Okay, one more time. Okay, so the idea here, learn it in 2 halves. It's half as much to learn. Once you know them both really well, then put them together and you'll find the entire scale is very easy to play.